Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Outgrow's Marketer of the Month. I'm your host, Dr. Saksham Sharda. I'm the creative director at outgrow.co. And for this month, we're going to interview Jack Rhysider, who is the host of the Darknet Diaries, which is a podcast about hackers, breaches, shadow government activity, activism, cybercrime, and all things that dwell on the hidden parts of the network. Thanks for joining us, Jack.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
So excited to have you. So, Jack, we're going to start with a rapid fire round just to break the ice. You get 3 passes. In case you don't want to answer a question, you can just say pass. But try to keep your answers to one word or one sentence only, okay? Okay, so the first question: how long does it take you to get ready in the mornings?
How long does it take?
You to get ready in the mornings, yeah.
Oh, a few minutes.
Second question: most embarrassing moment of your life?
Probably when I drove a car through a garage in front of my father when I was a teenager.
How many hours of sleep can you survive on?
I'm a really good sleeper. I usually do really good sleeping, but I can get by with 5 or 6.
Fill in the blank. An upcoming marketing trend is blank.
An upcoming marketing trend is diss tracks.
The city in which the best kiss of your life happened.
Pass.
Pick one: Mark Zuckerberg or Jack Dorsey.
Dorsey.
The first movie that comes to your mind when I say the word ambition.
Wolf of Wall Street.
When did you last cry and why?
I think I cried the last time I was in the Star Wars, watched Star Wars in the theater, whatever the last one was, because it was just so exciting to be there live for it. That's a weird answer because it's so long ago, but I can't remember a recent one.
That works. The biggest mistake of your career?
Not starting earlier. I started too late.
How do you relax?
Put some headphones on, listen to some music, and just lay down and stare at the ceiling.
How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
0.
A habit of yours that you hate?
I don't have good posture when I'm sitting.
The most valuable skill you've learned in life?
Have a good attitude.
And the last question is your favorite Netflix show?
I'm not sure. I'll say Queen's Gambit is a recent one I watched, and it was pretty good.
Okay, well, you scored 9 on 10. That was the end of the rapid fire round, and you win a car. Just kidding, you don't.
All right.
All right. All right. So, well, there's lots to ask you, and we're going to move on to the bigger questions now. Can you actually begin by sharing an interesting story as to how the Darknet Diaries came about? And can you also explain, I think this would be a good explainer question, as to why you have chosen not to show your video?
Yeah, I don't show my video because I think the internet's a dangerous place, and I really like privacy. In the past, I've posted some content to YouTube, and somebody tried to find out like where I lived and where I worked, and then actually emailed me at work, and it was very freaky, right? So once you get sort of cyber stalked, you really pull back, right? And so I don't like showing my face online. I don't like being publicly known outside of just what I do creatively. So I just kind of keep quiet to myself. And yeah, I mean, the way the show came about was I had wanted to make something for a long time, right? Just some sort of online entrepreneurial thing ever since 1990s, right? When the .com boom was coming. And so I had just, had a lot of different website ideas and blog ideas. I kind of boil it down like this, right? There's thousands of ideas I had. Hundreds of them I actually thought about, like, seriously. And dozens of them I actually started making on my computer. And then, a few handful of them actually got close to finished. Maybe a couple actually did finish. And then now this is one of those things that got finished. So a podcast was something that I was really into podcasts, and I said, where is a show that has this kind of content, right? Hacking stories, dark side of the internet kind of stuff, but in a well-produced storytelling format that didn't exist. So to scratch my own itch, I decided maybe I can make this. This is not something I have any skill in or talent in or past history in, but I just jumped in, read some books, spent like 3 or 4 months learning like the craft of it, and then got in and made it a podcast. And it was one of the few things that I finished out of the thousands of things I thought of doing. So but it's grown quite immensely, right? So at this point I have 300,000 downloads per episode, which is enough to work on this full time, as well as hire like a staff of 4 or 5 people to do it as kind of freelance work as well. And yeah, it's totally changed my life.
And are you working on it full time? Because you said it's enough to work on it full time, but are you, or are you just doing it?
For the last 2 years, I've been working on it full time. I've quit my job as a network security engineer, and now I make more as a podcaster than I did a network security engineer.
And what's one interesting story, if you could tell our audience about maybe something controversial that you got into and then they came after you, or like the people came after you, or it led to some sort of an incident in your life?
Well, I'm not sure who you mean by they. Like, are you talking about as a podcaster or just anything?
Just anything. An interesting story about any of these controversial stories that you get into.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the people that I talk about have really been upset. I think they've been more respectful and appreciative that I'm giving them, kind of an honest shake at what, they investigate. Like, I'll investigate, what these stories are very much in depth, and people are a little bit scared when they hear I'm investigating them that I'm gonna make them seem like villains or something. But they tell me afterwards, like, thanks for giving us like a fair look at it, because when people do something wrong, whether it's criminal or being victim of a major incident, a lot of us like to shame them and blame them and all these kind of things. But you know what, we all did stupid things when we were teenagers, and we can't always like secure every single door and lock in our business sometimes. And yeah, sometimes criminals break in, and I just kind of give people the benefit of the doubt. So I haven't had really anyone come after me in a sense that they were mad at me yet, but I do have a lawyer and insurance in case they do.
Okay. And can you share one interesting story from the dark side of the internet?
Yeah, there are so many. I'm fascinated with nation state actors when governments attack other governments or other countries and, steal information. But I think some of the most fascinating ones that people like the most are physical penetration testers. So these are people who are paid to break into a building to see if it's secure enough. And if they can get in, what then, right? They can try to find the valuable documents or plant a computer in the network so that they can access this place remotely. And in episode 6, there's a story about a guy who was paid to break into a bank, but he he didn't look very carefully at where he was, and he broke into the wrong bank. And he's a professional person who could break into buildings and stuff, and he had all the tools and the hacking gear, and was caught in the wrong bank, and he was very far in the bank, right? So what happens then? It's crazy, and it's just crazy how the story is. But these are the wild times that I like to talk about.
Sounds like the script for a movie, actually, which I guess a lot of your episodes might actually be good fodder for movie scripts.
Yeah, they are.
And how do you market the episodes exactly? Could you give us some marketing examples of how you've actually gotten the word about your podcast across?
Yeah, this is what's exciting. I could go on about this for hours, and this is what I geek out on. So, before getting into this, I had read so many marketing books, Seth Godin, Gary Vaynerchuk, listening to podcasts like Pat Flynn, and reading his book, Superfans, and Gabriel Weinberg's book, Traction. And like, I was just like ready to go when I had something to actually market. I was like, okay, I've got like a million tricks in my book. And so I just went at it. And the first thing is to make something great. Like no matter how much you market something, if it sucks, people are going to get it. They're going to listen to it. They're going to look at it and then say, nope, not for me, and put it down. But if it resonates with them, if it's powerful, if it moves them, if it gives them value, if they're really into it, then they're going to stick around and want more of it. They're going to tell other people, right? So absolutely, word of mouth is king. And the only way to do that is to provide more value to your fans. So that's the number one thing. Without that ingredient, you're not going to get anywhere with anything else. But I did a million other things. I emailed hundreds of people who had audiences. So this is journalists, bloggers, YouTubers, authors, people, just big people on Twitter and Facebook. And I just said, one or two sentences. Look, I know you write content or whatever about cybersecurity. I think your audience might like this show. Please check it out. And that was it. And 2 out of like the 100 or 200 that I sent emails to actually took me up on it, right? There was The Guardian, which was cool to see a write-up of my show in The Guardian. Like, that's a major news outlet. And the other was a Twitter person who has 1 million followers. And so he was like, I just found this show and this is great. You got to check it out, right? So that one tweet just really had me doing backflips at home. So, that was a good thing to start. But I do promo swaps with other shows. I take my artwork really seriously, my website really seriously. I'm always trying to find ways to improve the way it's shareable online, because like I said, if word of mouth is king, that means other people are sharing it. How are they sharing it? How can I improve that experience, right? What does that Twitter card look like? What does that Facebook card look like? What's the website say when people arrive? What's the experience like? All these little things I think matter when it comes to marketing. And like I said, I can go on for days on this.
And another one I think you mentioned before the show was being present at conferences. So you're going to a lot of events to try to market your show or to build connections or network.
Yeah, it seems like a big deal, right? You go, one of the things I did when I was launching the show is I went to a conference and I gave a talk. And at the beginning of the talk and at the end of the talk, I plugged my podcast. And you're in a room full of people and you're like, wow, this is like a great marketing opportunity. But it was really like a room of 100 people, right? So it's not like it's gonna be like viral right after that. But 100 people just heard about it. And does that move the needle a little bit? Yeah, at the beginning, sure. People say, oh, I know that guy, I'll check out his show or whatever, right? So yeah, I was giving talks at conferences. I was passing out stickers at conferences. There's one conference that has, I think, 20,000 attendees. I went to it and I brought 5,000 stickers and went through them in the first 2 days, right? So it was a 3-day event. I ran out of stickers. So yeah, just pretty much putting them on every single table I walked by, every booths at the conference that were empty. Like there was a vendor there, but not anymore. I'll just put a bunch of stickers there and anybody's walking by the booth can pick it up. Handing them out, anywhere that there was just a place to stick them down. They were getting stuck, not stuck, but just here's a pile of them. Anybody wants them, they can grab them. And yeah, it was. I'd walk by 5 or 10 minutes later, and they were gone because people like stickers, and it's an interesting logo. It's kind of curious, what is this? Let me grab this and look at it later.
Wait, so even in conferences, then you are in a sense anonymous. You're just going there to put stickers there, so no one has actually seen you.
No, I do meet and greet at conferences. I'll say, okay, if you want to hang out, I'll be at this place or whatever for this time. And yeah, I just don't like selfies. But people can get to know what I look like if they have the opportunity.
Oh, what have you put on your camera, by the way, that may look like this? Is it like a film or is it like...
It's called a Snapchat filter, and Snapchat has all kinds of different things you can do. You can add doggy ears or sparkles in your eyes, but I just chose to make
a Snapchat filter. So you actually other apps as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Interesting. What is this one called?
Blue Flame, I think. Let me check.
Blue Flame. Okay.
Blue Phoenix by Pam.
Blue Phoenix. Okay. It looks quite cool. Okay. So it's actually how did the Webby Awards happen? Like, what change did you see in your podcast after you won the awards, and what led to the awards happening?
Yeah, so the Webby Awards, I won. Well, okay, so the first year I entered the Webby Awards, I wasn't nominated for anything. So, just a big fat goose egg there, right? Second year I entered, and I was really mad too because I entered into the tech category for podcasts, and all the podcasts except for maybe one or two were I was bigger than them. So I was like, what? Who's judging these like as the finalists? Because my show is bigger than these other ones. So it was a weird thing to get started with. But then the next year, I did get nominated, so I was a finalist, right? And so there's two ways to win. You can be voted by the judges, or you can be voted by the the audience. So the audience gets to choose one award, and the judges choose another. Well, I was ready for this moment because I knew I would need something like this someday for the audience to do things, right? So how can I get the audience to help me here? There was a few things I could obviously say something on the podcast. Hey, I need your help to vote for the Webby Awards. But I don't have just one audience. I have a blog. I have a website. I have 50,000 followers on Twitter. I have 20,000 followers on Instagram. I have 20,000 followers on Facebook, 5,000 followers on LinkedIn, 10,000 people in Reddit, 10,000 people in Discord. Like, there's all these different audiences I have, and I was just able to, without even putting anything on the show, just tell all these people in all these little places, hey, I need your help voting for this. And that alone, what's amazing with Webby is that you can see who's leading the popular vote. So until the last day, and then you don't know. But I saw that, just that kind of campaign, asking people to vote, was able to get me to the top by huge numbers compared to other people. They just weren't pushing their audience to vote for them at the Webbies. So I was just keeping a very close eye on it, and then that was enough to have me win the People's Choice Award for Webby. Now, once that happened, I think not really much. Like, maybe there's some people who went to Webby's website and saw, okay, what are all the winning podcasts? I'll check these out. But I wouldn't say there was a lot. The thing I think that's the most important is I got a trophy from it, and I could show that to my dad, who's always like, I don't know if quitting your job was a good idea. And I could look, I'm winning trophies for this podcast, right? So it's kind of just a personal satisfaction. It was really good for that way. And then the other thing is having it as social validation, right? So putting that nice square and center on the website shows people like this isn't just some weird show or some obscure thing. It's actually winning awards, and that combined with places like being in the Guardian and stuff really slicks the wheels or whatever to let people say, wow, I got to get in on this. This isn't some crappy thing. This is award winning. This is newspapers are writing about this, and so it gives you that social validation, which I think goes a long way when people are on the fence on whether or not they should listen, or other places like other news outlets are on the fence on whether or not they should publish about you.
And have you considered trademarking your podcast? How necessary do you think it is today as more and more people are starting their own podcasts? Because you mentioned earlier you have a lawyer and an insurance army, but have you also trademarked it in a sense?
Yeah, I mean, I was coming, when I started this, I wanted to have it trademarked. The trademark office has denied me 2 times so far, saying it's not unique enough or something like that. I'm not sure. So I'm still working on that. I'm going at it again. I'm making like my 3rd attempt to trademark it, but I don't think that's necessary. Anytime you put something out there on the internet, it's copyrighted immediately as soon as you hit publish, like whether it's a blog, a YouTube video, a podcast. So you're already covered under copyright. The trademark is really for the logo and the name, that somebody else can't use that. But if you're sitting there with the domain for years and years and years before someone else comes around and says, oh, we're going to make that our company name, there's a good chance that you're going to be able to win that court case, even if you don't have a trademark. Like, look, I've had an established podcast with this name and this website for years, and you've never like cared about it, then you can't just come here and start taking over my stuff. I've got copyrighted works with this name and stuff, so you can sort of win your lawsuit even without a trademark. I know I'm not a lawyer, but this is kind of the way I look at it. I don't think trademarks are necessary in today's world for content creators.
Well, I suppose, but the problem would not be if someone small came and tried to take the Darknet Diaries and start their own Darknet Diaries podcast. I think the problem would be if someone big decided one day that they're going to make their own Darknet Diaries podcast and then kind of impinge on your audience.
Yeah, I mean, the law comes down to who's got the best lawyers and not really who's right or wrong. And that's a weird concept to think about. Like, you would think, is that legal or not? No, it doesn't matter. It's whether or not you can convince a jury if it's legal or not. So, it's a weird case. Like, would my lawyers go up against Facebook's lawyers if we wanted to battle something? I could probably win something, but how much would it cost me? It would put me out of business. So, it's one of those things too.
Fair. What do you think about the future when it comes to hacking data and computers? Like, how can strategic industries like healthcare, banking, etc., safeguard themselves from it?
Well, it starts from the top. Have the CEO 100% like be part of it. Like if the CEO doesn't think that this is an important thing to have security, then they're going to, you're as the security teams in the company are going to be pushing a boulder up the hill instead of getting help from the top. So the CEO needs to have 100% buy-in, and then let's keep going. Right? There's the chief information security officer. How are they running things, and what kind of team have they established? And so you get the right people, and you give them the right resources, and you give them the right amount of permissions to get the stuff done they need to do. And that's a good start already. A lot of companies just struggle with this, right? The CEO doesn't even take security training awareness programs or something because they think they're exempt from this, or they don't take it seriously. So yeah, I mean, just start with that, and I think you'll have a good going on it. For personal security, I think some quick wins are to use antivirus, update your software as often as possible, and use a password manager to have a different complex password on every website, and that'll make you a lot tougher to get into versus other people.
Okay, and what do you think of the darknet in general? Like, what is your opinion on the darknet? I know this is a very general question, but what do you think of the darknet, and how are countries trying to control it? Like, for instance, Russia or China, etc.
Yeah, I think it's important. I think what the Darknet does is it anonymizes you so that you can just kind of blend in with everyone else and not look when you're surfing the web using the Darknet, using Tor, you're not coming from your house anymore. You're going through that different network and then going out to the internet, right? So when you visit one website, it's going to say, well, you came from this other place that's far away, probably in another country. And so we think that's who you are, right? So it kind of anonymizes you, and you're not even close to that. So that's cool, and that's great, and it's nice to be able to circumvent, nations who are trying to block you from getting out onto the internet. China has a very strict control about what you get to see on the internet. So there's that, but there's also people who want to get their voice out there who are in oppressive regimes or something, and they can't really just get on the ClearNet and explain themselves like, here's what's happening here. They can use the Darknet to get their voice out. However, because it's anonymous and kind of secret and hidden, it does breed some criminal activity, and some really negative, nasty stuff goes on out there that you got to be careful of. There are some countries that try to crack it and deal with it. The US, for example, it has knows that there's a lot of criminals on the Darknet, and so they're looking at ways to try to de-anonymize it and try to find who's who, and by running their own entry nodes and exit nodes and trying to run the Tor network themselves. And they're doing some of this stuff already. But I cover some stories about the FBI and stuff trying to catch these criminals online, and they have a really difficult time on Tor. They can't find where the servers are hosted. They can't find who's running them. And so there's not some sort of magic bullet that the governments have to find exactly who it is. They really have to wait for someone to make a mistake on the darknet before they can identify them and catch them.
And can the darknet be turned off, like the internet is turned off, like at certain protest areas when governments turn off internet? Can they also turn off the darknet?
Well, it's kind of ran by people and not some central thing. So there's hundreds of entry nodes and hundreds of exit nodes, maybe thousands. So you'd have to really hit a lot of them at once in order to turn it off. I'm trying to think if you can block a certain protocol, if that would be effective. I don't know. I don't think you can. That's what's so nice about it.
Like speak about it in the Matrix. Like there's so many entry nodes and so many exit nodes of getting in and out of the Matrix.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, another question I had was back to podcasting, because I asked you about the future of like the internet in general, but what do you think is the future of podcasting? Do you think there's too many podcasts? Is there like a glut of podcasts on the internet? Do you think it's going to increase or decrease, or what do you think the future of podcasts is in
very
general?
excited about the future of podcasts. I think it's still the beginning. Not so much the beginning. I mean, we've been here for 10, 15 years, but I think there's a lot more great stuff to come. I hear your question similar to something like, are there enough books in the world? Are there enough songs? Are there enough movies? It's entertainment, and entertainment is always needing to be fresh and new and something exciting for us to check out now. And it doesn't matter if there's already 20 podcasts on that subject or 2,000. We want the newest one. We want something that's fresh and a new take on it. We want there's new news, there's new entertainment, there's new jokes. We're tired of all the old stuff. We want new stuff. So there's so much opportunity just constantly, right? I mean, you've got people reviewing video games and new tech, and you've got people talking about current news and all the stuff going on. Like that's never going to end. Like we always need current events. But then there's lots of like show I do is the kind of a historical thing. Let's take this old hack that happened 10 years ago and let's talk about it now, because now we know who did it or something. So it's kind of fun to take some documentaries and listen to them. But yeah, I think there's a lot of space to grow for a podcast. What I think is happening is that there's a big corporate money grab for it, and it's kind of fracturing the space. Like Spotify is making a lot of shows exclusive, and that doesn't help any listener at all. It just helps Spotify, and I don't even know if it's going to help that podcaster. Like they make a bunch of money on it at the beginning, but they could make just as much on their own, if you ask me. I don't see. Sometimes they overpay, but typically I think it's not that great of a deal. So yeah, I think that's kind of ruining some stuff, but good old podcasts are still great.
Okay, so the last question that I ask every guest on the show is, what would you be doing if not this in your life?
Yeah, I'd probably still be a network security engineer. That'd be a weird way. I was there for 10 years, and so it's just a matter of a few more.
Okay. All right. Well, that's the last question. And thanks everyone for joining us for this month's episode of Outgrow's Marketer of the Month. That was Jack Rhysider, who is the host of the Darknet Diaries podcast. Thanks for joining us, Jack.
Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Check out their website for more details, and we'll see you once again next month with another Marketer of the Month.